new assisted dying bill is being introduced in Parliament today, which is expected to propose giving terminally ill people with 6 or maybe 12 months to live the choice to end their life.
Well, Canada made assisted dying legal nationwide in 2016 and now has one of the highest assisting dying rates in the world. But the law there is still under scrutiny. In a moment, we'll speak to Dr. Ellen Wiebe, who has helped 430 people to die in this way. But first, Fran Nuri explains how the system works there.
Medical assistance in dying was legalised for adult citizens in Canada in 2016, with the requirement that a person's natural death had to be reasonably foreseen. In 2021, this requirement was removed and people with chronic illnesses became eligible for an assisted death. Plans to include the mentally ill have been delayed, but the expansion is expected to come into effect in 2027. Today, proposals to give terminally ill people in England and Wales the right to choose to end their life will be introduced in Parliament. Labour MP Kim Leadbeater is putting forward the bill and says now is the time to hold a fresh debate on the subject.
Well, assisted dying clinician Dr. Ellen Wiebe, who you saw there, joins us now from Canada. Very good morning to you.
Morning.
Good morning, except it's very late here.
I apologise, yes. It is late there and early here. Dr. Ellen Wiebe, it's obviously a hugely sensitive issue. You are somebody who assists people to die, and you have done that more than 400 times. What is when you're asked how you feel about that and what your justification for that is, how would you explain it generally to our viewers?
Well, my personal beliefs are that people have rights over their body, about rights over their lives. And when somebody asks me to end their life, as you know, almost all of them are terminally ill, even though our law allows most of them are terminally ill. And so it's a matter of having that little bit of control that you don't have when you have a serious illness, a fatal illness, that and people, of course, want to skip the last few weeks, the last few months of a horrible disease.
Most of us are predisposed to be frightened of death. What's the mood of your patients when they come to you into that room for the very last time?
They're so rarely frightened at that point. Remember, they've been through a horrible disease. They've usually been through lots of treatments and lots of difficulties. And so most of them tell me by that time, they're not scared to die. They're just scared of the rest of the dying process. And I'm very, very grateful to skip it.
Do you ever get somebody having a last-minute change of mind?
Not really. I mean, that's part of our law that we have to ask everybody, are you sure you want to do this now? And, you know, I've had somebody say, oh, could you come back in an hour? But not actually changing their mind at the last minute.
What is the process there for somebody who seeks this route? Because here it would be 2 doctors and a judge. What happens where you are?
So for us, it's 2 doctors or nurse practitioners who have to assess and agree that the person fulfills all of the eligibility criteria. And then we have to report all of this, and there's an oversight that checks everything and investigates if anything seems a little bit off. Right. So it has oversight, but it's after the fact, not beforehand.
So let's go to the moment of truth then, if I can put it that way. You've asked your patient if they're absolutely sure that they want to go ahead with this, and they've assured you that they do. Take us through it from that point. What happens then?
Okay, well, earlier I've asked them how they want to die, and they have a choice in Canada of drinking a liquid or having an intravenous. 99.9 99% choose the intravenous. And why? Because it's fast, it doesn't taste bad. So that's what almost all of them choose. So a nurse will have helped me by putting an IV in, and then I give the medication. In Canada, we're the only country that uses a general anesthetic. So I give a sedative and then a medication that causes a deep coma. And then once they're in that deep coma, then I give the medication that stops their heart and stops their breathing.
And how long does that entire process take?
Between 5 and 10 minutes.
And presumably they have relatives with them who are observing what's happening. What's their reaction? What's their reaction as that process unfolds?
Well, we have to prepare them. So that's one of the questions I ask my patients. Who do you want to invite when you are dying? And most people will just want the closest people to them, the spouse, their children. But some, I arrive and there's a whole party going on. A living wake is happening. And others have done all their goodbyes before I get there and have nobody with them. And that's at their choice, of course.
Let's have a look at it from the other end of the ethical sort of perspective. When the law came in Canada in 2016, a person's natural death had to be reasonably foreseen. But then the law was changed a few years later, back in 2021, and the law no longer requires a person's natural death to be reasonably foreseeable. And that means that people with chronic illnesses become eligible. There are people with chronic illnesses and people with disabilities, and you were interviewed by Liz Carr, who herself is part of the disabled community, who are very concerned about the way that this might be seen to devalue the lives of those who aren't considered by some people to be 100% fit and well. That it opens a door to saying some people, frankly, would be better off dead. What do you say to that? So
I am also a disability activist. I have been using a wheelchair for the last 32 years and have worked hard to help improve the rights of disabled people like myself. And I can say that, we need the right to be able to choose what our lives are worth and what we need. And there's no way that you can say that just because I am disabled, that I should have fewer rights.
Interesting. And when you, after the bill came in Canada, has there been, in your view, any change in the perception of the disabled community or those with chronic illness? Do people experience any discrimination or negativity as a direct result of what's changed with assisted dying?
Not at all. I mean, as has happened in all the other countries with legal assisted dying, the people who want these assisted deaths are generally elite. I mean, they're white, they're well-educated, they're wealthy. They're the kind of people who are used to being in charge and control of their lives, and they want to be in control of their deaths. And that is not include the most vulnerable people. Yes, of course, I have assisted people in all social groups and many, many ethnic groups, but the majority, the vast majority, are still people who are really, privileged.
This is, I think, for both of us here, a unique conversation. I mean, I certainly have never knowingly spoken to anybody, let alone a doctor, who has assisted so many deaths, 430, I think, over the last 7 or 8 years, which is an average of more than one a week. On a personal level, how has that affected you?
Well, I've been a doctor for a long, long time, and in medical work, we deal with tragedies. We tell people bad diagnoses, etc. So this isn't the first time I've dealt with this kind of sadness around dying. But it varies completely. And many of our patients are matriarchs and patriarchs of big families, and say they've had a good life, they're ready to go, and they're surrounded by this lovely family. Others, it's not like that. I mean, when a mother is saying goodbye for the last time to her little children, it is so much a tragedy. But my part of it is not the tragedy. It's the horrible illness that's taking this person out at a time that we don't expect or want to see. And so it's just part of life is dying. 100% of us are going there.
It's a good point you make. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Ellen Wiebe.
Thank you, Doctor.
Who is an assisted dying clinician there in Canada, where assisted dying is now the 5th cause of death
yeah.
nationally.